Okay, it is time to dig into these design options for focus and to start doing some more extensive customizations. But I just reviewed the last video and I saw something I want to clarify before we move on, and I'll show you what it is right here. So when I showed you the horizontal gutters, these values are a little bit curious, huh? X1, X2, X3, X4, X5, X6, huh? What the heck is that? Well, to explain this, I got to explain some more things. So let's back up here. So we go back to the fonts. You'll notice that the primary font size variable is F5. Well, that's because it's F5. It's F5 because there's actually 6 font sizes that get generated when you select a primary font size. There's 1 size smaller and 4 sizes larger. Now I can give you a visual for this, and we will look at the golden ratio typography calculator and let it show us a typographic scale. That's what this is, a typographic scale. So here is a visual representation of a typographic scale with 18 as the base font size, which is exactly what we had in the design options there. So as you can see here, we've got F1, F2, F3, F4, F5, and F6. F and then the number signifies a font size. Focus will calculate line heights to go with each of these font sizes that gets used in your layout. These line heights also have similar variable references. These are G1 through G6. G1, G2, G3, G4, G5, and G6. G meaning golden line heights. And then you have one more set of an array of variables, if you will, and that is for spacing units. These spacing units are based on the line height of the primary font size, and so that's why it says here base 30. 30 is the line height that goes with the 18 pixel font size you specified, and all of these spacing units down here are based on that. So it's X1, X2, X3, X4, X5, and X6. Now what's interesting about this is you don't have to calculate any of it. All you need to do is give one number to focus, your primary font size, and boom, focus generates all of these other values that you can then use to create a very dynamic, a very smart, very easy to maintain design. And indeed, that's what focus already is. When you just use the default focus, all this stuff's already set up, it's all conveyed perfectly, and it's all done really well. So that's what X1, X2, X3, X4, X5, X6 is here. You are specifying a relative value on a scale and not an actual value. I want to get people out of this mode of thinking in terms of, well, I need to know how many pixels it is. Is it 12? Is it 18? Doesn't matter. It's all relative sizing. X2 is the primary spacing unit in the design. It's marked with an asterisk, and it says as much here. It indicates primary spacing unit. And so I know that on desktop, I want my horizontal gutters, that's what's on the left and right sides of the layout, to be a minimum of 1 unit of white space wide. And then I know that X3 is smaller. It is a golden section of X2, so I know it's a smaller value, and you can see that here. Here, X3 is 19 pixels. X4 is 12 pixels. Again, it doesn't matter what these precise values are. All that matters is that you are using a relative sizing scale. And that's what's going on here. And you're going to see that more down in these other options in the design options. So we covered the base settings in the last video. Now we're going to look at using our base variable references to design and customize the rest of our layout. So the first thing is this layout sections. This is very simple. You've got your body. So your body is the entire, the entire web page. Right now, the background color is just white. But you could change that. You could choose from your existing color palette where we set up colors up here. But you don't have to know what each of those colors is, because you can just select this and it will change the background of this button or this selection element to be whatever that color is. Hey. All right. So you can select from your predefined colors list, or you can, customize and do your own. Let's say we want some black in there. So we'll do, there we go. And then we can, well, we could save it. Everything's going to turn black because I haven't changed our text, but you'll see what's up. There you go. The Nab menu is still white. That has separate controls. You could go in and change those, but the bottom line is you see what you would need to do. So that's the simple deal with the body controls. And then you've got your header. The header has more options. The header, content, and footer all have more options than just the body. With the header, you can specify a background color. And again, the header is this top part here. It includes your site title and site tagline. You can control the display of both of those items. But you can choose what color the text is there. You can choose the padding on the top and bottom. So right now, the padding on the top and bottom here is X3 as specified. You could increase that or decrease that depending on whatever you're looking to do by changing these values. And right now a border is deployed beneath the header, and we're choosing border style 1, which again we have defined border style 1 and 2 above. So these are all just references to stuff you set up above. Content, same sort of deal. And then the footer section. So real quick, the content section is everything below the navigation menu. This is all your content. Hey, all the way down to the footer. Everything in between there is within the content part of the page. And then, of course, your footer controls. Right now I'm using the accent text color in the footer. That's how the focus default is set up. And we can go down and look at that. Here it is. You can see that it is that light gray color and not the dark black text color that's in use everywhere else. So there's that. And that's pretty much it for the layout sections. That's self-explanatory. You can play with those, see what they do, no big deal. Now we have site-wide elements, such as site title. We know where that is. You can select the font size. Again, font size you're choosing from the scale. You are not picking out and saying, well, I want this font size. The reason why it's not done that way is because the value you put in there is not going to be related to the rest of the spacing and sizing in the design. The way Focus is set up, you can't screw this up. It's going to always use values from the scales that get calculated. Everything's always relative. It's always, proportionality is always maintained. This is the right way to do things. You can make it normal, bold, or italic. Right now I've made it bold. That is the Focus default. You can change the text color, whatever you want to do. Same kind of controls for your tagline. Your Nab menu. So the Nab menu is actually this whole section here in the default Focus loadout. Again, you can change font size, text transform. This one's interesting. You can make it upper or lowercase. Sometimes you want all your navigation menu items to be uppercase, lowercase. You don't want to do that when you set up your WordPress nav menu. So like, for example, if we went into menus here, when you set these up, you don't want to be doing your typographic adjustments there. You don't want to be like capitalizing everything. Just write it normally. Capitalize the first letter maybe, because it's like proper. But you don't want to be making those types of adjustments here on the data. You'd rather make those in the design side when you can do that easily. And these Focus controls let you do that. Uppercase, lowercase, no problem. Again, you can choose the background color for the nav. You can set the link text color. And also a border below the navigation section, which we see right there. Next, we have sidebar controls, and as I explained in a different video about the content and display options, you can selectively deploy sidebars on various templates that get used in your design. And that's only available if you're using the readability mode. That is the Focus default. But if you are using a sidebar, you can control the way it looks here. You can choose the background color of the entire sidebar, the text color, and also the font that gets used over there. The sizing for the sidebar is actually completely automatic. I actually have to show this to you because it will make more sense. So let me set up a sidebar here on the blog page. We will convey that. And then if we look at this, right now we see that the side, oh boy. Let's turn that body back to white because that looks ridiculous right now. Oh my goodness. All right. And then when this refreshes, oh my gosh, well maybe, there we go. It was cached. Okay. So now the sidebar has this gray background, but in the full desktop view, the sidebar is not very wide. What's ironic about the sidebar and the way this works is when we have a full desktop view, the sidebar is actually rendering the most narrow it's going to render in any environment, even on mobile. And I'll illustrate this. When the screen gets smaller, the sidebar actually gets wider. So that introduces an interesting design scenario that we need to deal with. So here it is in the full desktop view, and then when the screen gets pinched, you'll see that the sidebar then becomes as wide as the content above it. And this font size that you're looking at here is actually bigger than it was when we were in the full desktop view. And that's because we have more real estate, so we may as well bump up the size to make it more legible. But that's kind of backwards the way you'd expect it. You'd expect for fonts to be able to get bigger on desktop and smaller on mobile. But with a sidebar, because it's a narrow element on desktop and a wider element on mobile, that transition actually works the other direction. And that's why you don't have specific size controls for the sidebar in the focus design options. It's because it really is a dynamic thing. It needs to change to be best suited for the environment in which it currently sits. So Focus goes ahead and does all that for you. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to do it. It just works. And so there it is again. And there it is. So that's how the sidebar controls work, and that's why you don't have some of the design options for the sidebar that you might intuitively think you should have. That's why it is that way. And that's kind of the point of these videos too. I want to let people know what the decision-making criteria for all this stuff is. It's not like willy-nilly, decisions I've made, like, I just don't want to deal with that or that sort of thing. Not at all. I've given these things a ton of consideration and tried to create an environment for you that handles everything gracefully and also does so with the least amount of input from you, and also requiring you to change the least amount of things. I don't want you setting stuff and thinking, oh, I really need to tweak this though, and then I also need to tweak that. I've tried to make all of those adjustments for you mathematically by using the smart stuff that's baked into Focus. The next site-wide element, we've got inputs and we've got buttons. In regular WordPress blog, deployments, we don't really see too many of these outside of the content or the comments area on a post. So if we go and look at this, here we have a comment form and then a comment submit button. And if I weren't logged in, we'd have the other fields that are, name and email and website fields that are commonly seen on comment forms. You can control the labels on those forms, the text inputs, the text area field, which is a little different than a regular text input, select elements, which don't even, I guess those appear in the sidebar stuff or widget stuff for category drop-down selectors. Again, you don't really see those too often on just basic WordPress websites. And then the input submit, which appears in the comments area. And then you've got buttons. Buttons don't actually exist at all in a basic WordPress installation, but the way I use WordPress and to build a little app like this typography calculator, this thing here is a button. I want to be able to control my button style. So if we look at thesis, so here's a button inside the thesis admin. This is a save button. We'll go over here to the box admin real quick. This is an action button. This is an action button. This is a delete button. So you see you want different styles and really different colors for buttons that do different things because the colors mean something. Red is oh, hey, maybe use some caution before this. Green implies saving or, a go type thing. The blue buttons seem kind of innocuous. These indicate an action. Something happens here, but it's not like a data thing. You're not saving anything. You're not deleting anything. It's just an action. And then I don't have any currently available in this environment, but another type of button that you can set up and focus is an update button, and those are commonly yellow. But you can make them whatever color you want by specifying this stuff in the design options. So default buttons, save buttons, delete, action, update, they're all here. Got custom colors and stuff. Pretty sweet. So if you are using WordPress to build apps and non-bloggy type websites, some of these things in the site-wide elements here in the design options are really going to be stuff that you need, and it's very useful. Tremendously useful, actually, to set them up in this manner, because that stuff often takes up a ton of room in CSS. Some of these button styles and input styles, they're pretty intense, so it's really nice to have this stuff done for you. Really nice. And then last, we have content elements. So what are content elements? Content elements are everything you're going to find in a typical WordPress post or page. That is content. That's the actual content of your site. The stuff that's saved as posts, saved as pages, that is your content. Content styles are the stuff that's going to appear within that. Generally, the only exception would be like your headline and byline, which are related, but they're not actually within the body of the post itself. So here's a headline, here's a byline. You can control that stuff. This is a WordPress featured image. And then you've got your content. We've got our subheadings. We've got lists. We got headlines, subheadlines, which I already said. We've got little images. We've got code. We've got block quotes like this one. This is a standard block quote. We've got these things called callouts, 3 different kinds: alerts, notes, and boxes. We've got various types of image styles. You've got inline captions. That was a little handy thing I introduced a long time ago. We've got, let's see here. We've got extended images, just regular post images, images with captions, images with, this is an image with a frame. You can see the frame here. You can control every bit of this stuff, even keyboard styles, although there's no controls for the keyboard styles. So it's just automatic, and footnotes. But you can control all this stuff via these controls in the design options. Really, and the options that you have here are the stuff you're most likely to want to change. Like, I want my headlines to be bold. Okay, you can do that here very simply. Select bold, save it, you're done. Bylines, you can change the color of them. Let's see what else you can do. Color, font size, font. You got your heading controls. Same sort of deal. Lists, you can choose like how much space, how far the indentation is on your list, like how far this indentation is, how much vertical space is between each list item. It's kind of nice to be able to control that stuff. Again, those are all relative values though. It's not saying 12 pixels, it's saying X4, X2. You can choose the style of your unordered lists. You got block quote controls, image frames and captions, like I said. You got your callouts, that's alerts, notes, and boxes. You got, inline highlights. This is a new thing I added and haven't even talked about yet, but like an example of an inline highlight is right here. That's an inline highlight. Sometimes it's nice to just be able to highlight a little section of text, and you can actually control what color is the highlight appears right there. And then you can do code and pre-formatted code. You can even choose how that stuff looks. And so there it is. That is your tour of the basic focus design options. But with these controls that I have shown you, you can make dramatic changes to the default focus loadout. Indeed, the default focus loadout is just it's a very specific set of settings on these controls. That's pretty neat, because the implication there is that if you were so inclined, you could take this whole framework of variables and design options and mix it up differently. You can remix it and create something totally different than what the basic focus is. And so that's why whenever anyone suggests to me in the future that, oh, I don't like the basic focus, or I don't like the way it is, kind of going to respond a little bit like, well, that focus isn't really a particular way. The default expression of focus, like the way it is when you first install it, is a certain way. But you could mix up those elements very differently and get a tremendously different result just by using the controls that are there. So focus isn't any one thing. Focus is a design system. It's a collection of templates and some CSS, some real smart CSS, and some variables, and some software that does some very remarkable things and enables you to create dynamic designs that have very, very efficient and organized controls. And not only that, once you've set this stuff up, you can then use variable references in your extended customizations and create this environment that is 100% dynamic, that responds completely to whatever changes you want to make here through this panel. You make your changes here, and if you have done everything else right, everything else will just adjust. So that means you can engage in extremely rapid prototyping. You could set up your environment and then change stuff really quickly. Let's say you're working with a client who wants to see it like this, and then they want to see it like this, and then they want to see it like this. You're not going to have to sit there and do painstaking work for hours just to present different environments to somebody. You can just click a few of these options, make some changes, and then within seconds, deliver something for somebody to look at and say, hey, what do you think of this? Well, what do you think of this? And moreover, this enables some pretty cool stuff. So it's been fashionable for about a decade or so to go pink for October, or to do these fun little tweaks to your website at different times of the year to make seasonal changes. This design system enables you to do that in a way that's very cheap and very easy. So I hope this has been instructive and insightful, and I hope maybe your wheels are turning a little bit with some of the possibilities with Focus and how you might be able to use it exactly how you want to use it. I don't want you to feel like you're stuck with this design or anything like that. I want you to feel like you are empowered to create this boilerplate framework that is exactly what you want it to be. All right? The possibilities are endless with Focus. That's the bottom line. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.